Before we get into today's edition of Just the Truth, Mike Lindell sent me a note yesterday. He has a special for the 6-piece towel set, $25 when you use promo code Joey. Just go to mypillow.com, use promo code Joey. You'll get the $25 offer on the 6-piece towel set, and I promise you, these will be the most comfortable, the most absorbent towels that you own. mypillow.com, use promo code Joey, get the 6-piece towel set for just $25. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome into today's show. As usual, a busy day, lots of headlines. Breaking news out of New York City, Eric Adams becomes the first sitting New York City mayor indicted in historic federal probe, claims that feds are persecuting him over the illegal migrant crisis. MSNBC's Stephanie Ruhle calls out Kamala Harris for dodging how she had raised taxes, saying she doesn't answer the question. Well, is that something new there, Ms. Ruhle? A Kamala Harris surrogate and President Joe Biden's Secretary of Commerce, Gina Raimondo, called for former President Trump to be extinguished for good during an interview on Wednesday. Extinguished. Who uses that word after the man has had 2 assassination attempts on his life in recent weeks that we know of? Details on that. Better get stocked up on some certain items. A looming strike by roughly 45,000 unionized dock workers at seaports on the East and Gulf Coast could begin next week and would be a huge disruption on shipments of a variety of products as the presidential election approaches. We have all the details on what to expect.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
New York City Mayor Eric Adams has been indicted by a grand jury on charges connected to a federal probe. This marks a historic moment as Adams becomes the first sitting mayor of New York City to face such charges in nearly 2 centuries. A defiant Adams vowed to stay on as mayor and blamed the Biden-Harris administration for targeting him because he's been critical of their immigration policies that have flooded New York City with thousands of illegals.
My fellow New Yorkers, it is now my belief that the federal government intends to charge me with crimes. If so, these charges will be entirely false, based on lies. But they would not be surprising. I always knew that if I stood my ground for all of you, that I would be a target. And a target I became. For months, leaks and rumors have been aimed at me in an attempt to undermine my credibility and paint me as guilty. Just this past week, they searched the home of our new police commissioner, looking for documents from 20 years ago, just 1 week after he joined my administration. Enough. I will fight these injustices with every ounce of my strength and my spirit. If I'm charged, I know I am innocent. I will request an immediate trials so the New Yorkers can hear the truth. New Yorkers know my story. They know where I come from. I have been fighting injustice my entire life. That fight has continued as your mayor. Despite our pleas, when the federal government did nothing as its broken immigration policies overloaded our shelter system with no relief, I put the people of New York before party and politics. Now, if I am charged, many may say I should resign because I cannot manage the city while fighting the case. I can also understand how everyday New Yorkers will be concerned that I cannot do my job while I face accusation. But I have been facing these lies for months since I began to speak out for all of you and their investigation started. Yet the city has continued to improve. Make no mistake, you elected me to lead this city, and lead it, I will. I humbly ask for your prayers and your patience as we see this through. God bless you, and God bless the city of New York. Thank you.
Mayor Adams is expected to surrender to authorities early next week, with the indictment set to be unsealed probably next Thursday, potentially, by U.S. Attorney Damian Williams. The charges are believed to be related to allegations of the Turkish government illegally funneling money into Adams' mayoral campaign in exchange for approval of the Turkish consulate in downtown Manhattan. The indictments follows a series of FBI raids earlier in September this month, targeting several high-profile Adams administration officials, which had already sent City Hall into a bit of chaos. Mayor Adams has vehemently denied any wrongdoing, stating in the video statement that he is innocent and will fight these injustices with every ounce of my strength and spirit. The indictment comes amid multiple federal investigations targeting City Hall and other New York City officials, though no one has been charged or accused of wrongdoing in these other probes to date. There could be potentially more charges coming. As this very unprecedented situation unfolds, New York City is at a crossroads here. The indictment of a sitting mayor raises serious questions about the integrity of city government, which are already suspicions there anyway. This is fuels the fire, and the potential impact on its operations. Nobody knows what to expect. We will see. We will continue to watch this. In a recent interview, MSNBC host Stephanie Ruhle pressed Vice President Kamala Harris on her economic proposals, highlighting the challenges that the Democrat nominee might face in implementing her plans with a potentially divided government. Ruhle later appears on her own network and complains that Harris doesn't answer the questions. Well, surprise. Have you not noticed that yet, Ms. Ruhle? That Kamala Harris never answers the questions? I guess it took you asking one to finally realize this, huh? Here's the exchange.
How do you find that line to make sure corporations are paying their fair share, but they're not leaving our country?
Well, listen, I work with a lot of CEOs. I have spent a lot of time with CEOs, and I'm going to tell you that the business leaders who are actually part of the engine of America's economy agree that people should pay their fair share. They also agree that when we look at a plan such as mine that is about investing in the middle class, investing in new industries, investing in bringing down costs, invest in entrepreneurs like small businesses, that the overall economy is stronger and everyone benefits.
Talk about that answer.
I do, but here's what's a little tricky. She doesn't answer the question around if the GOP is controlling the Senate, if she can't raise corporate taxes, where is she going to get the money from, to expand the child tax credit and do all the things she wants to do? And she says, we just have to do it.
Ms. Ruhle had asked the vice president how she plans to fund her economic proposals if Republicans block efforts to raise the corporate tax rate. It's a valid question. Because if you're promising all of these things to the American people, but yet Ms. Ruhle's smart enough to understand that it's not going to be an easy thing to do, that you can't do it if you can't get the money. And finally, a mainstream media reporter asked a decent question. Harris responded by emphasizing the need to raise corporate taxes and ensure that the biggest corporations and billionaires pay their fair share is a common talking point among Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. But again, Ms. Ruhle asked the right question. Well, what if? What if that doesn't happen? What if the Republicans take control of the U.S. Senate, which is expected? There's a very good chance we will. And what if they maintain control of the U.S. House, which again is expected? What are you going to do then? Ruhle highlighted concerns about the national deficit, noting that continuously borrowing without addressing the deficit could be problematic. Yes, it could. But Kamala Harris, that's all she knows. She's been a part of the Biden-Harris administration for so long. All she knows to do is spend money. She never thinks about the consequences of continuing to do so. Despite her critique, though, despite her complaining, she defended Harris, suggesting that President Trump would likely increase the deficit, quote, significantly bigger than Vice President Harris will. Wow. This just underscores the ongoing debate about economic policy and fiscal responsibility in the 2024 election. Again, these are important issues, and the American people need to know how each candidate stands. We know what Donald Trump will do because he has a record. We also know what Kamala Harris will try to do because she too has a record as being the Harris in the Biden-Harris administration. Do you think this is the beginning of mainstream media finally holding Kamala accountable to the questions that are being asked? Do you think maybe they're going to turn on her, or at least demand that she answer rather than just serving them up word salads in return? We'll see. You may want to start thinking about stocking up on certain items as a looming strike by 45,000 unionized dock workers at seaports could have the supply chain chaos caused just like it did back during COVID. That's coming up. Your comments are welcome on the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. PhD Weight Loss wants you to know, yes, you can. You can get back to your ideal healthy weight. Yes, you can get back into sizes you thought you'd never see again. And yes, you can get rid of that harmful belly fat, all without becoming dependent on medication loaded with side effects. Hi, it's Joey Hudson here. PhD Weight Loss encourages and equips you to lose weight the healthy, natural way and keep it all for the rest of your life. Dr. Ashley Lucas, a licensed registered nutritionist, developed a solid plan that works. Trust me, I lost 30 pounds. You see, PhD Weight Loss removes the guesswork. They literally tell you exactly what to eat each day while you watch the pounds melt away. But they also teach you to think about food differently and to learn to anticipate and navigate situations that make you want to indulge. PhD coaches will teach you to believe finally that yes, you can do it. With no gimmicks or lifelong medications, finally lose the weight and keep it off. Yes, you can. Call today. PhD Weight Loss, 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900, or go to myphdweightloss.com. A potential strike by roughly 45,000 unionized dock workers at seaports on both the East and Gulf Coast could begin as early as next Tuesday. And boy, would this disrupt shipments of a variety of products as the presidential election approaches in November. This could cause chaos in our shipping industry, in our supply chain, I should say, just like we saw during COVID. One half of the seaboard imports to the U.S. are shipped through 36 ports that would be impacted by a strike that could begin on October the 1st. It would be the first strike by the International Longshoremen Association, which represents the port workers since 1977. The union and the U.S. Maritime Alliance, which represents port employers, are at an impasse over wages, of course, and a new contract. And as of this past Sunday, talks between these two groups appear to be at a standstill, with each issuing statements about the impasse. If, in fact, this strike occurs, it would disrupt billions of dollars in imports ranging from cars, auto parts, agricultural commodities, and consumer goods. The potential work stoppage comes as the U.S. election season heats up, and both parties are worried about who the American people might blame for the beginning of shortages for certain products and probably higher prices at a time that we can't afford higher prices. The ports that would be affected by the strike handled $37.8 billion in vehicle imports in the 12-month period through the end of June of this year. This is according to S&P Global Market Intelligence. The Port of Baltimore leads the nation in car shipments, while auto parts are also a major import on the East Coast and the Gulf of Mexico. Those ports also lead the U.S. in shipments of machinery, fabricated steel, and precision instruments, again, according to the S&P Global Market Intelligence data. Agricultural products are also a significant import, as 3/4 of U.S. banana imports are from countries like Guatemala and Ecuador. Jason Miller, interim chair of Michigan State University's Department of Supply Chain, told Reuters what an impact it could have on bananas. Personally, I don't eat a lot of bananas, but if you love bananas, you might want to stock up, maybe freeze some. Can you freeze bananas? Are bananas okay after you freeze them? Because we could have a situation, again, kind of like COVID, where you've got container ships languishing out in the ocean. You can't do that very long with a load of bananas, because guess what? The bananas are going to rot. There would also be an impact on the $18.5 billion beef and pork export industry and the poultry and egg export sector as well. All of these are shipped in refrigerator containers. Roughly 45% of waterborne U.S. pork exports and 30% of beef exports were shipped via the East Coast and Gulf Coast ports in the first 7 months of this year. This number is coming from the U.S. Meat Export Federation organization. In the pharmaceutical industry, because it's going to be touched as well, over 91% of containerized imports and 69% of containerized exports of U.S. pharmaceutical products are handled by these affected ports. We could get back again into those situations with that we had with COVID, when you had items that you need, items that you want, items that you have the money to pay for, but you just can't get, regardless of what you're willing to pay for them. And this is why we are still experiencing inflation on a lot of products, why those prices have not come down, even though Joe Biden and Kamala Harris wants you to believe that inflation has come down. Yes, month-to-month reporting of inflation has come down, but the effects of inflation are still with us, stronger than ever. According to industry officials, more than 1 in 3 containers exported from the U.S. with life-saving medications leave the port of Norfolk in Virginia, while nearly 30% of containerized pharmaceutical imports coming to us enter the U.S. at the port of Charleston, South Carolina, my home state. So think about that. You got certain medications that you have to have, and you run out of a month's supply, and you go to the drugstore, and you can't get it because they can't get it, because it's sitting in a container out in the ocean somewhere, because there's no reason for it to come into the port, because there's no one at the port to bring them in and unload it. Now, guess what? Joe Biden could potentially do something about this. The question is, would he step in as president? The White House previously signaled that Joe Biden would not invoke the Taft-Hartley Act to impose a cooling off period under which workers would go back to work. They'd work for 80 days while their negotiators continued to work on a deal. Spokesperson Robin Patterson of the White House said since taking office, the Biden-Harris administration has developed a comprehensive whole-of-government approach to monitor and mitigate potential supply chain impacts, from severe weather to transport service interruptions to this spring's Key Bridge collapse in Baltimore. As part of this approach, we're monitoring and assessing potential ways to address impacts to U.S. supply chains related to operations at our ports if necessary. That said, we continue to encourage the parties to continue negotiating towards an agreement that benefits all sides and prevents any disruption. So what's happening here? The unions are asking for a sizable raise over a 6-year period and are also seeking protections against automation that could replace their jobs. On the other side, operators and carriers represented in the talks by the United States Maritime Alliance point out that their offer includes a reasonable wage increase over that period of time. On September 23rd, USMX released its own statement saying, "We remain prepared to bargain at any time, but both sides must come to the table if we're going to reach a deal, and there's no indication that the ILA is interested in negotiating at this time. Folks, you better stock up on some things. And don't run to the dollar store right now and buy everything off the shelf, but you may want to just kind of take an inventory of things like dog food and make sure you got a good supply of your medication on hand. Your comments are welcome on the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Firmin Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Firmin Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Firmin Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Firmin, Matthew Firmin. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Firmin Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Firmin Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Firmin Ford online at firminford.com, firminford.com. Vice President Kamala Harris is facing ridicule on social media after she called for Americans to move on from the failed policies that we have proven don't work in an address on the economy yesterday. Now, wonder what failed policies that don't work she's talking about. It left people kind of scratching their head looking around the room after she made the comment. This was during a policy speech at the Economic Club of Pittsburgh, where Kamala Harris emphasized her middle-class upbringing. Have you heard that before? It's like every speech she gives these days, she talks about her middle-class upbringing. She keeps talking about that over and over and over till people are just tired of hearing about it. It's almost like you can ask her any question, and somehow she's going to work into her answer that she was from the middle class. She is pledging to build a strong middle class with proposals that she's rolled out in recent weeks, like increasing the tax break for new small businesses and giving a $25,000 credit to first-time home buyers. Harris said, when the middle class is strong, America is strong, and we can build a stronger middle class. The vice president went on to claim that Donald Trump drove manufacturers out of the country.
Now, look, my opponent, Donald Trump, well, he makes big promises on manufacturing. Just yesterday, he went out and promised to bring back manufacturing jobs. And if that sounds familiar, it should. In 2016, he went out and made that very same promise about the Carrier plant in Indianapolis. You'll remember, Carrier then offshored hundreds of jobs to Mexico under his watch. And it wasn't just there. On Trump's watch, offshoring went up and manufacturing jobs went down across our country and across our economy. All told, almost 200,000 manufacturing jobs were lost during his presidency, starting before the pandemic hit, making Trump one of the biggest losers ever on manufacturing.
Donald Trump, a loser? Look, lady, you need to look in the mirror if you want to see a loser. Harris's comments about moving past failed policies drew jokes from conservative political commentators on social media who found that her statement is ironic since she's the incumbent vice president. I mean, seriously, does she think we're that stupid? A former 2020 Trump campaign advisor and Fox News contributor Steve Cortez joked, acceptance is the first step. And you're right. You gotta accept the fact that you're wrong before you can move on and improve, right? Red State columnist Buzz Patterson said, "Who wants to tell her?" Babylon Bee CEO Seth Dillon wrote, "Kamala Harris says we need to move past the failed policies that don't work. She's telling us to vote for Trump. Listen to her." Good point. That's exactly what she's saying, isn't it? If she's talking about the failed policies and we need to move on, then let's move on. Let's move back to Donald Trump. Let's go back. You know how she keeps she chants, "We're not going back." Well, maybe she really wants to go back. If she's talking about failed policies now and she wants to see the country turned around, the only way to do that is to go back to Trump. Conservative commentator Lives of TikTok posted, "New Trump ad just dropped." I hope that they do use that over and over in a Trump ad. They should. Representative Troy Nehls of Texas wrote in a response, "You're right. The American people are sick and tired of the Harris-Biden administration's failed policies. November can't come soon enough." Versus Media podcast host Stephen Miller wrote, "Quite the optics today as Harris is out saying we need to move past failed policies while the old man is on The View saying he delegated everything to her and his administration." Joe Biden was on The View yesterday. And it was kind of interesting because, the ladies on The View, back when there was talk of Joe Biden leaving the ticket, and particularly right after the debate, the ladies on The View kind of threw Joe Biden under the bus. They were talking about it was time for him to step aside. Well, he's done that now. He appeared with them. He was on their show yesterday, and it was kind of like they were sympathetic with him. And as he's talking about, well, I think I would have beaten Donald Trump anyway. I mean, he's telling people that. He told the ladies on The View yesterday that had he decided to stay on the ticket, he was still going to beat Donald Trump. If that's the case, Joe, then why didn't you stay on the ticket? Because I know you didn't leave the ticket for the betterment of your party and the country. You were pushed out of the way by Nancy Pelosi and Chucky Schumer because they knew that you were going to lose miserably, and they thought one last Hail Mary, let's put Kamala Harris in there, even though she's as bad a candidate as you are, Joe. During her speech, Harris called Trump the biggest loser ever. This is a phrase that Joe Biden has used over and over about Trump. He loves to say that Donald Trump is a loser. He loves that. He even said it yesterday on The View during his appearance there. He talked about how Donald Trump is a loser as well. Harris, of course, trails Trump with voters on key issues like the economy and inflation. That's why she was talking about it. She's trying to convince people that she can handle the economy, that she can do what's going to need to be done in order to turn things around, in order to get inflation down and keep it down. It's not working because people and consistently in the polls, when asked who they think is better suited to work on our economy, it ain't Kamala Harris. They want to go back to the way things were during the Trump administration. She's really talked up the economy in recent weeks. She's trying to narrow the gap between herself and Trump on America's top concern, because it is. It has consistently showed up in the polls as being top of mind. Meanwhile, a Biden-Harris cabinet member suggested that Donald Trump should be, you ready for this, extinguished. Now think about that for a minute. If you've had someone who has survived 2 assassination attempts, do you really want to use the word extinguish and their name in the same sentence? She used that word extinguish until the MSNBC host asked for clarification. Listen to the exchange.
He says is the opposite. It's just another lie. Like, how did we get here? Let's extinguish him for good. We have an answer. We have a remarkably talented candidate who is sincere, who's pragmatic, who's open. let's just get it done.
And extinguish, you mean vote him out?
Yes, absolutely. Vote him out. Banish him from American politics. Yes, just vote him out.
Do you think she really recognized what she was saying when she used the word extinguish? Or do you think it just kind of came out? It slipped out? I think she meant to use it. I think she wanted to draw the attention. This was Gina Raimondo. She's Joe Biden's secretary, or she's the Biden-Harris administration's Secretary of Commerce. She is a surrogate speaker for Kamala Harris. And she's out there calling for Donald Trump to be extinguished just 2 weeks after the second attempt on his life. This was an interview on MSNBC's Morning Joe. Raimondo attacked Trump's policy position, saying that she felt compelled to speak out in her personal capacity before the election because the stakes are so high. The discussion took a turn when host Mika Brzezinski asked Raimondo about Trump calling himself a protector of women. He said this week at a rally in Pennsylvania. Raimondo replied, "I don't know how we've gotten here, but we sure as hell have to get out of here and get Kamala in the White House." Brzezinski seemingly understood the severity of Raimondo's comment in the moment when she used the word extinguish, offering her a chance to clarify what she meant. That's when she said, "You mean vote him out, right? Vote him out." In which Raimondo immediately said, "Yes, that's what I meant. Vote him out." Now, you know, President Trump has blamed this type of rhetoric on from Democrats for the reason that he's been shot at once that nicked his ear, killed a man sitting behind him, severely injured two others. And then this most recent episode when the would-be assassin never got a shot off, but certainly was close. And they love to condemn Republicans and Donald Trump specifically when they think that he's being a little too rough, that his rhetoric is a little too tough. But yet they can say things like he needs to be extinguished just to kind of float the idea. It's kind of like in a courtroom when a lawyer says something that he wants the jury to hear, knowing that he's going to get an objection, knowing the judge is going to say overruled, strike it from the record, knowing you can't take it back, knowing the jurors have already heard it. Do you think that's kind of what she had in mind here? Wanting to throw the word out, extinguish, knowing that you can't take it back, knowing that people heard that, knowing that maybe some kook out there heard that and he thinks, well, I'm going to take up I'm going to do what the Biden administration wants, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to finish the job on the president. And they may even think that they're going to get that $150,000 reward that idiot posted in his letter that the Department of Justice released this week. Don't get me started on that again. Whether you're replacing a broken appliance or maybe you're just upgrading, you're totally remodeling the kitchen, when it's time to get those new appliances, when you're ready for them, you don't want to have to wait weeks or even months to get started using them, right? Well, that's not the case when you shop with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse. With over 11,000 square feet and 1,500 appliances at any given time, you can buy today and use today quite often. I'm talking about shopping with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse in Pickens. It's worth the short drive over to Pickens. Jeff, Johnny, Kyle, the whole team over there, they'll take good care of you. They have an award-winning service department, expert installation, extended warranties, and at Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they treat you like family. You're more than just a credit card swipe to all the team over there. Discounted Appliance Warehouse, are proud to offer Speed Queen, the only washer and dryers with manufacturer's warranties that cover parts and labor. You owe it to yourself, if you're looking for a new appliance, to head over to Pickens to Discounted Appliance Warehouse online at dawpickens.com, dawpickens.com. Your comments are welcome on the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. A lot of text messages today, and I'll try to get as many as I can in. I appreciate all the text messages and your emails too, joey@joeyhudson.com. Albert writes, I watched an interview with DA Kamala Harris where she discussed how she could ruin someone's life with the stroke of a pen. She could put them in jail for 48 hours even though she knew the charges wouldn't stand. Of course, there was some more evil spewing out of her mouth. Her body language was the scariest because it showed that she truly enjoyed the power to control and make people submit to her way. Harris is pure evil. She is. And it's scary to think that she was a district attorney, that she was the top law enforcement officer of California. And I've seen some of these videos too. And Albert, you're right. It is scary that she took such great pleasure in knowing that she could ruin someone's life, innocent or not. Chuck writes, hey, Joey, why do politicians keep talking about a national abortion law? The Supreme Court ruled correctly that the Constitution gives the feds no authority over abortion. A law would be unconstitutional. Thanks for a great show. Thank you, Chuck. It was a good question. I mean, the whole idea when Roe was overturned is to send it back to the states, let the states decide. Forget this nonsense about a national abortion ban. Let's let it stay in the states' hands. That's what we need to do. States know what their people want better than the federal government does. I mean, really, do you want the federal government involved in abortions again? Ace writes, one more thing on that, though, because I have had people who've emailed me and text me about a national abortion ban. I'd love to hear from you. Text me, email me, joeyhudson.com. Tell me why I'm wrong on that. All right, now moving on. Ace says, Joey, good morning. It seems that such a large percentage of Harris supporters is an indication of just how stupid America has become. You're right on that, Ace. Most left are so hard-headed that they absolutely refuse to listen to any reasoning. They're angry about everything. I believe they hate themselves. We need to teach our kids Christian values, or I believe that the next generation will destroy America. And it may not even take the next generation, Ace. You're right. I've said this many, many times. It bears repeating. Until we reintroduce God to our nation, he is not going to bless us. We have to put God back into every facet of our lives. God needs to be back in the schools. God needs to be back in the workplace. God certainly needs to be back in our federal government, our state government, our local government. I was at a forum, well, really wasn't a forum, a meeting last night of the Oconee County Republican Men's Club. Representative John McCravey from Greenwood, South Carolina, a member of the South Carolina House of Representatives, was the speaker. I had the pleasure and the honor of introducing him. That's a great club. If you live in the upstate of South Carolina, and particularly over in the Oconee County area, you should be a member of the Republican Men's Club. And ladies, you can go to. It's not just men. It's the men's club, but our lady friends are welcome as well. Great group of people. And boy, they fired up for Trump. This is part of the group that they recognized and applauded Candy Bianco, the lady who organized the Trump boat parade on my beloved Lake Kiowee back in the summer, where we had such a great time, had hundreds and hundreds of boats to turn out. Just a great group, though. I enjoyed being there. And you know, Representative McCravey talked about, he's a man of faith. And he talked about some of the upcoming legislation that the Family Caucus is going to be working on. And one of those is about having the Ten Commandments back in the schools. Paul writes, on the subject of another debate, yes, it's late in this election, but, all caps, I'm thinking another would be better for the nation. Change the format entirely and run it like a town hall. Neutral location like a swing state. Moderators, one chosen by each candidate. I might even suggest the vice president, presidential candidate is the moderator. I don't think that'll go over too good, Paul, but I agree. I do think there needs to be another forum of some type, if not two more. Texter Joey, good Thursday morning to you. Just finished reading an article about a Haitian rights group wanting Trump and Vance arrested because of the cat story. Let me tell them right quick, if they are illegals, they have no rights. Everybody these days seem to have rights except those born here. My country, my country. Jennifer writes, from my observation of conservatives, including myself, it's almost as if we can't talk about the horror of what's going on with Trump's safety or lack thereof. The Senate Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee report was shameful and disgusting, unbelievable, but not a surprise. Question, are they trying to get him killed? Valid question, Jennifer. Dom from Illinois, my buddy up there, says, good morning, Joey. Quick question. Can you list for me the states considered to be the battleground states? It seems every time I hear it, there's a new and different state included. If you can, please warn me before you list them so that I can write them down this time. Well, I'll tell you what, Dom, I'm gonna text those to you, but here they are. And you're right. They can typically it's Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. There's been some others who've kind of been added to that and then taken away, but those are typically what we consider the battleground states. Again, Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. You got that, Dom? I'll send them to you, though. These states are considered battleground states for several reasons. They had close margins in recent elections. They were decided by just a very narrow margin in 2020 and 2016. Demographic changes there. They've had shifting populations and voter demographics, which have made outcomes less predictable. Just like North Carolina. North Carolina was red, solid red for years. Now it's more purple because you've got those bigger areas like Charlotte and the Raleigh area that have changed the demographics of North Carolina. Georgia, very similar. You got the big city of Atlanta. You got a melting pot of people coming into that city. They have a meaningful number of electoral votes that could potentially swing the election. Some have been trending from one party to another in recent cycles. Issues like manufacturing job losses, economic growth can influence voter preferences in these areas as well. And high levels of political activism and voter turnout make the results somewhat unpredictable. So, Dom, those are what we consider the battleground states now. Hey, let me take a minute to talk with you. I mentioned a minute ago that John McCravey was the speaker at the Oconee Republican Men's Club last night. I just love John McCravey. He is when you think about a state representative and what they should represent, John McCravey is at the top of the list. And he's also a very good attorney as well. He is the founding partner of McCravey, Newland, Sturkey, and Clardy Law Firm. If you are looking for an attorney with a proven track record of settling and trying cases in South Carolina, John McCravey and his partners, John Newland, Jason Sturkey, and Timothy Clardy, you need to have them on your team. If you or one of your loved ones find yourself in a car accident, a workplace injury, slip and fall, medical malpractice, or maybe even wrongful death, you need the unmatched representation of John McCravey and his team. Schedule your free and confidential case evaluation today at McCraveyLaw.com, McCraveyLaw.com, or call 833-245-6565. That's it for today's show. Tara's up next, followed by Mike Gallagher, Bill Frady, Charlie James. I'm back again tomorrow at 5 a.m. for that first cup of coffee. Until then, remember, folks, God's got this. He's still in control. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined our mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Just click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, find me on YouTube. Be sure and like, subscribe, follow me on my YouTube channel. Just search for Joey Hudson. Appreciate you spending a few minutes of your day with me. Be sure and forward this edition of Just the Truth to some friends. Just click on the share button. Send it to a few of your contacts, because if we're going to build our community and if we're going to win in November, we got to build an army of conservatives. The way we beat Joe Biden is through educating people, and no better way than encouraging them to listen to Just the Truth. Hey, keep those comments coming via the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Your emails always welcome as well. Joey@joeyhudson.com. Don't forget to take advantage of the MyPillow special, $25 for the My Towels 6-piece towel set when you use promo code Joey. Just go to mypillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. We're back again tomorrow. Hope you will be too. Remember, God's got this. He's still in control.